Hey, everybody. Hey there, Matt.
Good afternoon, Brian.
Still got people rolling in. Give it another second
Yeah,
here.
give everyone a few minutes to join.
All right. While everyone's filling in, I think we're gonna go ahead and get started. All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar or today's masterclass on 7 service desk outsourcing mistakes that could get you fired. People are still rolling in. Looks like we're getting to a virtual full house here, so it's great. For those who I haven't connected with, my name is Brian Studway. I'm on the IT services team here at Mechdyne, and I'll be your moderator today. Thrilled to have you all. Thanks for joining this highly requested session. Before we dive into the content, let me quickly walk you through our agenda for our time together today. We'll spend a moment with a brief introduction to our topic, followed by a in-depth conversation with our esteemed speaker. And after the presentation, we'll open the floor for a Q&A session. So we encourage you to submit your questions through the Q&A feature at any time. Today's masterclass is a hot topic. We're focusing on the top 7 outsourcing mistakes that could get you fired. With so many organizations choosing to leverage a partner for the help desk function, it's crucial to avoid common pitfalls that can negatively impact your organization, your end users, and yourself. So our goal today is to provide you with the tools, the insights, and the practical knowledge that you can apply to help make the best decision for your organization. Quick housekeeping note, this will be recorded, so you'll receive the recording within the next day or so. In case you want to revisit anything or share with your network, the on-demand recording will be available to you. So allow me to introduce our guest speaker, Matt Szymanski. Matt's an ITIL certified service desk strategist. He's helped countless organizations navigate the often murky waters of partner provided help desk services. Matt, thank you for lending your experience today.
Yeah, my pleasure, Brian. Happy to be here.
Yeah, excited about the conversation. So, Matt, let's kick it off. So, some of our attendees here today, they may have a service desk team in-house and they're feeling that their in-house team is the right team because they know their business best. So, in that scenario, why should they consider a service desk provider, and really should they consider a service desk provider?
Yeah, okay. Well, starting off with a tough one here, huh, Brian? Okay. It is a good question, though. And when it comes to service desk, level 1 help desk, it is uh, it is a situation where silos are actually a good thing, right? Level 1 support, access, connectivity issues are fairly similar work across many different verticals. We're talking Office 365 questions, Google Suite questions, account lockouts, and you don't want to have your in-house team that might be focused on project work, desk side support, or even infrastructure handling these lower level tasks, right? One, it's a higher cost to have them doing that. It can lower their job satisfaction, and level 1 is very interrupt driven, and so it can delay projects. It can delay the efforts that the in-house team should be focused on to drive the business forward. So, the support for the business specific knowledge really should be handled by a client's in-house level 2, level 3 teammates, projects that drive business growth or cost savings. On the other hand, for a provider, running a service desk is their business, right? It's not simply to support their business. They should know best practices for staffing, training, monitoring, and keeping documentation up to date. Also, with a provider, they're going to have lessons learned across many clients and markets, and they're going to be able to bring that and apply them to other clients' deliveries. Some folks out there may be concerned that they don't feel their service desk is up to snuff, or maybe ready to hand the reins over to a provider but that's okay, right? It doesn't have to be in tip-top shape. A good provider should be able to fill in the gaps in processes and documentation and reporting and put those items in place before they go live with the service desk as an outsourced provider, or at least they should.
Okay, all right. So you convinced me, Matt. Level one is most effectively done via a partner. So with that being said, what would be a key metric to measure the success of the service desk?
Yeah, so a little bit of a trick question because the provider shouldn't be telling you what that is for your business. It's highly dependent, right? It's dependent on your business objectives, what you're trying to achieve with the service desk. A potential service desk provider should be asking you what your objectives are and building the solution to achieve that. For some organizations, it might be cost of service. And if cost is the most important, you'll likely want to look at an outsourced or likely need to look at like an offshore provider with which comes with some caveats, right? Often a lower quality experience, maybe one your end users aren't so happy with. But if end user satisfaction is your key driver, you'll really want to know about the provider's culture, their turnover, their hiring practices, their training practices, because those agents are going to be representatives of your IT department. And so you'll want to find a provider or company that puts a lot of extra care into their teammates. Ones that don't aren't going to have agents that put a lot of care into your end users and their satisfaction. So really, in short, make sure the provider's asking questions around your goals and they're showing you how they plan to address them. So not one key metric, many different key metrics. The provider should be working with you though to uncover the one that's most critical to your business.
Got it. Okay, fair enough. So it's really dependent on the organization, their business objectives, and a good provider should have those objectives in mind, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
Not the risk here is not defining your key needs to your provider upfront, or worse yet, not knowing what your CIO and leadership defines as success. Gosh, that can really result in committing to a provider multi-year term and not addressing your boss's needs. So the title here is things that will get you fired. Definitely knowing what your organization values from the provider and making sure your provider can address them is very critical to everyone's success.
Okay. So similarly, the provider is going to have some objectives, right? What are the providers trying to get out of that partnership?
Yeah, sure. Well, of course, they're going to be trying to win your business, right? All businesses are operating to make sales and profits.
Sure.
However, are they trying to win a mutually beneficial partnership for the long term, right? Or only the immediate sale? Uh, Ask them, find out about their retention and renewal rate of existing clients. What's their roadmap for the future? Where are they growing their services? What else might they be able to provide to you to deliver a one-stop shop experience? Uh, yeah, it's just like the provider should be understanding your objectives, you should also be understanding theirs because again, it's a two-way street. It's got to be mutually beneficial. So the best way that happens is a lot of communication, uh, discussions, and making sure you're both on the same page before proceeding.
Got it. Got it. Got it. So you talked a little bit about what to look out for upfront when evaluating your current partner or when evaluating a new partner. What should an organization expect during the transition or implementation? And if you could talk a little bit about what they should be on the lookout for during the sales process as well, that would be helpful.
Yeah, the implementation is it's a critical component to everyone's success here, especially yours as the decision maker and your organization. Uh, when an IT when IT or an organization decides to outsource the service desk or any managed service, right, or change from an existing provider, there's going to be a lot of eyes on it and expectations with this change. They're going to want to know, is it going to be better than what they have? Are the end users going to revolt or use it? And if it falters right out of the gate, that's not a good look. That's not a good look for the provider. It's not a good look for the company, not a good look for the decision makers. And so a lot of whether or not it's successful from the get-go hinges on the service desk provider being able to put a good implementation plan in place and having a very detailed approach. This is
Okay.
not time for them to provide on-the-job training, right? This is not an instance where letting your users call a new service desk and have the agents trying to figure it out as they go. Uh, that's not going to work. That's a recipe for disaster for sure.
Sure.
So provider should be able to show you a detailed project plan from kickoff to go live. There should be a weekly cadence meeting. You should know if the onboarding is on target for success or not. Uh, so there should be all these details should be shared, and it should be very clear, a clear process, and you should know if you're tracking or not to hit that go live date. And of course, a quality implementation takes time and money. So during your evaluation process, make sure you've received the adequate information on their plan and that you feel comfortable that it's going to work in your environment to get you where you want to be.
Okay. So, man, I'm sensing a through line here. It sounds like communication is vital for setting expectations and also realizing those expectations. So, it sounds like what our audience should be on the lookout for is a well considered, well thought out, detailed plan before they go live. Is that about right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Like I said, this is not the time for on-the-job training by the
Right.
service desks and their agents. They should have a plan in place to have them skilled and ready. Again, having something go live and your end users not like it right out of the gate, now you've just really put an extra hurdle in front of you unnecessarily. It can help encourage users to circumvent the service desk. It's going to result in not enough issues resolved, not enough things taken off your team's plate, shadow IT happening, lots of potential pitfalls with not getting the implementation done right.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So, let's take it a step further. Let's assume an organization, they've gotten to the point, they picked a partner, they've gone through the implementation, now they're live. So, what can they do to make sure that partnership is successful in the long run?
Yeah, another great question there. So successful delivery of a service desk needs to be a two-way street. It should be a symbiotic relationship. Um, the providers actually can have very little actual control over the organization's IT environment. So once they find areas for improvement, and I've identified those, the organization themselves may have to provide some efforts to bring them to fruition, right? So this may be building out additional workflows in the ITSM tool for service requests. It might be allowing the provider additional access or privileges to resolve more issues. Could be, reviewing updated knowledge base articles from the provider. So again, it's a collaborative effort, bit of a two-way street. The service provider should be coming with ideas and recommendations for changes, but again, they're only going to have so much control in their environment. And so the partner and the organization really need to work together. Furthermore, the provider may have suggestions for self-help tools. Again, things that the organization may have to implement. And some of these tools could be used to drive down ticket avoidance and reduce use of the service desk. So the provider should be willing to point users, or I should say in addition to this, the provider should be willing to point users to documentation or articles that would allow them to resolve the issues themselves the next time it happens. This is another area to help drive down ticket volume. Now, of course, the goal here should still be for the service desk agent and provider to help the users when they call. We don't want to stop that. But you may, as an organization, want the agents to encourage the users or show the users self-help tools or knowledge base articles that are available to resolve the issue themselves. Again, a good partner, a good provider should be finding ways to help you generate ticket avoidance, right? And drive the use of the service desk down. The reason being is there's always going to be new technology changes coming down the pike. And as those come in place or come online, it's going to drive tickets up. So you want a provider that's helping you not, to kind of avoid that ticket bloat and really help wherever they can in generating ticket avoidance or promote ticket avoidance where possible.
Got it.
So
So,
lastly there, I was going to add one more point on that
yeah,
is,
yeah, if you got more, please.
is we talked about this being a two-way street and collaborative. The provider also has no control over your end user population. and they may have gotten used to picking up the phone or shoulder tapping their favorite IT tech to help them. A good partner should help you with ideas on how to help avoid that, right? Um, you don't want to run into a situation where you're minimizing the value of the service desk that you've just put in place by users circumventing the service desk and a lot of
Mhm.
shadow IT happening. So some combination of ideas from the provider and your organization and your IT team should help with that. You really want to, we've run into instances where an organization really needs to look at helping encourage a habit change or a culture shift. And the best thing you can do there is work with your provider to make that happen so you can get the most value out of your service desk.
Got it, man. So with all that being said, right, you've given us a lot of helpful tips here. What's a tricky pitfall? Something that wouldn't be so obvious to an organization looking to move to a partner
Mm.
provided service desk.
That's a good one, and that's a really important question. Um, this is probably one of the areas that can cause the biggest buyer's remorse, and
Mhm.
it has to do with knowing what is in scope at level one for them to resolve and what's out of scope, right? Where's that line in the sand for the agent to take a ticket, handle it, versus take it, log it, and realize they need to route it to the in-house team? And having those expectations kind of set up front of when it crosses that line. Um, you know, nothing will, like I said, nothing will generate bigger buyer's remorse sooner than thinking the service desk is going to do more than what they're set up to do, what they have privileges to do, what they have access to do. And so working on that early on, pre-sales, and defining that scope and having that clear definition is very critical. Um, you know, I've you need to ask the provider how they define that, and different providers are going to have different definitions for it. I've heard clients tell me that they've had providers that say if there's not a knowledge base, a KB article for it, they won't touch it. And so even simple IT processes, helping a user get their Outlook set up on a phone, helping them with audio settings in Teams. I've actually had clients tell me that other providers won't touch it if there's not a KB article. Uh, so make sure you understand how they define what they are or aren't going to handle, and get that up front. Make sure it's very clear in your mind so you know when a ticket's going to be resolvable by the provider service desk and when it might have to be transferred or escalated back to your team.
Sure. And also what that process should look like, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right. Great. All right, everyone. I hope this has been valuable so far. Matt, let's try and tie this all together. We discussed, six of the biggest or most common mistakes. Now, how do we connect the dots on these? Are there any last huge mistakes the audience should keep an eye out for?
Yeah, of course. At the end of the day, by avoiding these and other mistakes, you should be getting your return on your objectives. And notice I didn't say return on investment. An ROI for this is somewhat difficult to calculate at best. And the reason being is an investment in service desk is really a requirement to run your business. Um, I equate it to a utility like electricity or water. And while those services don't necessarily drive the business forward on their own, they are needed to run the business. They are keep the lights on activities in services. But that doesn't mean the provider shouldn't be returning some value to the organization. It most certainly should. And the value here should really align with what the organization set out to achieve when they started evaluating partners. Were they looking to improve end user satisfaction? Were they looking to increase hours of coverage, lessening the burden and interruptions to the in-house team? There's no shortage of ways for a partner-provided service to return value to the organization. My recommendation is know upfront what you're trying to achieve, discuss it with the providers early, and make sure they can show you how they're going to accomplish that. Because at the end of the day, this has to be a partnership. It's a win-win. It's got to be a win-win solution. This partner is going to be a representation of your IT department. You want to make sure they're going to do a great job at that.
Sure. Awesome, man. Thank you, man. So you've given us some great takeaways. Nice food for thought. So now we have time for questions. Audience, if you could type your questions into the Q&A box, we'll address them as we can. Does look like we have a few questions here. So are you open for a little Q&A, Matt?
Yeah, of course. We got some time. I probably spoke a
Right.
little too fast here and moving through here pretty quickly.
No, no, I'm with you, man. So here's one. How important is training and development, is ongoing training and development for service desk agents, and what role does the provider play in that?
Yeah, so the provider really should take it on as a train the trainer type of responsibility. The service provider should be responsible for training any turnover of their team. Now, they may require some new training if there are IT changes in the organization's environment. However, they should they sh- the organization themselves should not be responsible for keeping all of the agents up to date, especially if there's changes to the to the population of the agent pool. So train the trainer up front. The provider should be recording that, keeping it, making it available to new agents, and really be the ones that handle that ongoing development.
Got it. So another one for you is, how can organizations ensure their service desk provider can adapt to their needs? And I think the essence of this is, scalability and
Mhm.
flexibility from the provider.
Yeah, any provider should be able to support increases in ticket volumes easily. And if there's a change in the business, they should also be open to a change order, right? If an organization does a divestiture and they greatly reduce their volume because they've spun a business out, this you want to find a provider that's going to be willing to be a partner with you. And then also, if you're growing, they should be able to show you what's in scope, what's out of scope, what happens with changes or increases in ticket volume, and how they're going to support that.
Got it. Got it. What are some common what are some common concerns organizations have about outsourcing their
Hmm.
service desk?
That is a question we hear a lot, to the point where we actually created a white paper on it, and it's called Top 7 Myths About Outsourcing Your Managed Service Desk. Brian, I actually think you have a link for that. You can maybe post somewhere in the meeting
Yeah,
or share
yeah,
with,
of
share
course.
with attendees. Um, But just to kind of answer the question, one of the challenges many organizations face, especially with doing it in-house, is kind of getting trapped in the cycle of interview, hire, train, repeat. Most organizations, if they have an in-house service desk, it's going to be a fairly smaller team, and there's a chance for a lot of turnover through that. If they don't have a pathway for those agents to progress or advance in their career within the organization, that could definitely be a very big challenge, and a challenge we hear very often with organizations doing it in-house. One of their biggest pain points is turnover and having to constantly find new teammates, train them, and get them up to speed, and then run the risk of losing them.
One last one here. So how long does an implementation typically take? I imagine this varies, but maybe you could speak on your experience a little bit.
Yeah, a good implementation. Well, first of all, you want a good implementation, right?
Sure, sure.
And I can't speak on behalf of all providers out there. However, ours usually is an 8 to 10 week process, and we do put a strong emphasis on the implementation and doing it properly. We will not shortcut it. We won't do an abbreviated implementation, because having a poor end user experience right from the start, especially after promoting this change and communicating within your community, your end user community, could result in a big backlash. Your end users could be upset, not use it, circumvent it, and all of these things are um, all of these things could make its way to the C-suite, and because few things travel faster than bad news. And so you want to have a quality implementation, and make sure your provider or provider you're evaluating can give you a walkthrough of how they plan to make that happen.
Got it, got it. Thanks, man. I think that's all the questions we have time for now,
You know,
but I do
hey,
want to
well,
take them all.
Actually,
I'm sorry.
there's one more I just saw come in from Donald.
Oh, yep,
Let's
there it is.
yeah. So how do you balance the onboarding of a partner, training and transferring services from with the existing staff without facing depleted service standards? That's, really good question here. Again, that goes back to the implementation as well. Um, and again, I can't talk on how all providers do it, but for us, we're going to train the agents, skill them, and test them and quiz them about your environment so that when we do the cutover, they are ready to start taking those calls. So a lot of it, if I understand your question, a lot of it goes into the prep work during the implementation and making sure those agents are skilled for your environment before the cutover. Again, I can't speak on all providers. The way we like to do it is we like to have a very clean break from the previous way to the new way, and most of that is done through uh, training and preparation and reviewing knowledge base articles and making sure the agents are ready. Hopefully that answers it. If not, we can always follow up offline.
Yeah, sorry about that, Don. I missed your question there. I'm glad Matt got to that though. Uh, Anything else you want to cover before we close out here today, Matt?
No, I just think I want to thank everybody for attending. Much appreciated. And I think there's going to be a little survey here at the end that Grace is going to pop up for us. So we'd like everyone's feedback. But yeah, without any other questions, we can give folks a little bit of time back to their day. Wish everyone has a very happy Memorial Day weekend. Stay safe over the holiday.
Yeah, yeah. Again, thank you all for joining us today. Hope you found it valuable. If you do have any further questions or you'd like to get in touch with Matt or I, please feel free to reach out, email, phone, or LinkedIn. That have our contact information readily available for you. So thank you all and wonderful weekend to you all. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.